So I'm going to tell you about building a world-leading tech company. And this is important because there are people in the audience who might want to do it themselves. There might be policymakers in the audience who might want a few more world-leading tech companies in the UK economy. If you're a world-class research university, you might want a few more world-leading tech companies on your doorstep here in Cambridge. Or you might just be curious as to how you do it. So I'm going to cover three things. Why bother trying to build one? Secondly, some tips on how to do it. And then some interesting stories of things that happened to me while I was doing it. But first, to get to know you a little better, I'd like to ask you to put up your hand if you're working in a tech company. And by tech company, I mean software, computers, telecoms, that type of technology. Put your hand up if you're working in one now. So there's a few of you. Keep your hand up and put your hand up if you're somebody in your family is also working in one. So it touches this audience a bit, but I wouldn't say it's a lot. I wouldn't say it's a big part of the Trinity alumni life. But why bother? So the first reason you might want to bother is you can really change people's lives with technology. We've seen computing move from data processing in the sort of back office doing accounts and things like that, to moving into the office where everyone's office life became centered around their computer, to now where the whole life of individuals is based around computers. We've all got our smartphones, we're on the internet, we're talking to everyone all the time. It's basically taken over human life, and the people who built these tech companies have delivered that change. Another reason you might want to do it is it provides employment. It provides loads and loads of jobs for people to do in the future. Another reason, and my favorite one, is actually it provides you with some independence, because these tech companies are incredibly powerful. And if you're running one or involved in controlling one, it means you have much more self-determination, quite apart from the raw power and the wealth that you might build up. I remember when I was working at Sun Microsystems, I came across Eric Schmidt, who went on to become chairman of Google. And that's really a powerful company now. Just looking at their power, if you look at the top 4 companies in the world by market cap today, 3 of the top 4 are tech. There's Apple, who's number 1, there's Google, and there's Microsoft, and the only old world economy company in there is Exxon. So this is now dominating the world economy. And just looking at Apple a bit more closely, I looked up on my phone about 10 minutes ago what their market cap is, and it's currently standing at $602 billion. Now, by anyone's imagination, that's a lot of money for a company that's only been around for like 25 or 30 years. And to put it in context, if you compare that to the size of the UK economy, it's 24% of the UK economy. So the whole of the British economy is only 4 times the size of Apple. And if you look at their rival in smartphones, in fact, the people they're behind, it's Samsung. I noticed in The Economist on Friday that their turnover is $387 billion. Think of that. In Korea, and that's 15% of the UK economy. So the scale of these organizations is absolutely stunning. Just to reflect on the moment in this great change that's happened in our world, going to the internet digital world, I thought I'd look up how the UK was doing. So I looked up the top 100 internet websites. And I just want to play a little game with you now. I want you to guess how many British origin organizations there are in the top 50 websites worldwide. So put your hand up if you think it's more than 5. You obviously, some think it's more than 5. Who thinks it's less than 5? Yeah, so the answer is, in the top 50, there's 0. And the first British origin internet website in the world comes in at number 61, and believe it or not, it's the BBC. Now, I'm a fantastic admirer of the BBC. I think what they do is brilliant, and I love the BBC website. But it's a very interesting commentary on the biggest business opportunity that's rolled in over the last 25 or 30 years, that the best the British economy has managed to do is put our good old nationalised BBC up there at number 61. And the only other one, there's 2 in the top 100, the only other one at number 97, just scraping in there, is the Daily Mail. Now, hands up who will admit to actually having looked at the mail online. Go on. Yeah, you know it's fantastic, don't you? It's lovely. What a great website. I love their celebrity pictures. Now, you might think, well, it's all down to the Americans, they own the internet. But actually, if you look in the top 100, there's loads of Chinese websites. There's quite a lot of Russian ones. There's a few Turkish and some Japanese, and we've only got 2 in there. So this internet, this world-leading tech company stuff seems to be pretty important nowadays. But the final reason why I bother is it's a pretty exciting and intriguing challenge to actually drive one of these things, and I really recommend it. So my second subject is how to do it, some tips on how to do it. There's loads of books on this. The first thing to say is it's different if you're building a world-leading tech business. If you're already inside one, launching a new business, that's called Apple doing the iPhone, or if you're basically staring at a blank sheet of paper or a garage and you're building a business, both a product business with customers and the whole administration and organization of a company as well at the same time. Now, believe you me, building a brand new business from inside the mothership of a big business, as Microsoft's discovered with their various attempts at getting into search like Bing and other things, is not that easy, actually, building a tech business from scratch, even if you start out in part of an enormous one. So to build a new tech business from scratch and build a whole new company as well in parallel is quite tricky. So bearing in mind that there's those 2 different scenarios, I'm going to talk about the second one, which is the harder one. So just 3 tips. Firstly, you must have an absolutely fantastic product. It sounds really obvious, but it really matters. It's got to be at least 10 times better than any alternative. One of the companies I worked in, Micromuse, we had one of those products. It was 10 or 20 times better than the alternatives, and you cannot hope to succeed unless you've got something like that. The second tip is you have to have a very carefully thought out focus strategy to win the market in small steps. So you might have heard that, or heard people say that to grow a great tech business, you've got to attack a big market, and that's completely wrong. Because the way you build a tech business is you have to create a monopoly. And if you start out attacking a very small market, you can create a monopoly quite quickly. And there's a very good book written by a man called Peter Thiel, I think that's the pronunciation, called 0 to 1, where he sets this out very clearly. He's the guy who founded PayPal, by the way. You have to start with a small market and win it and become the leading player in that market and go on from there. Now, the bit I'd add to that is it's really handy if your first market is not only small but growing fast, and secondly, architecturally influential on adoption in other important markets. So in my case, that turned out to be internet infrastructure. So we dominated the market for internet infrastructure when it was tiny. No one had heard of it. That exploded, and that took us worldwide with it. The third sort of big tip is something I found out when I was leaving McKinsey, looking for a internet business to join in 1995. I went round to some of the people I'd worked with before and I got their advice on how to find a great opportunity. And the then head of Sun Microsystems in Europe, a man called Daryl Barbe, said to me, he said, all the companies I looked at joining had a fantastic product, a great market, great people, lots of capital, everything you'd expect. And he said the difference that sorts out the winners from the losers is problem solving. Because as you're growing one of these businesses, terrible problems come along all the time, life-threatening problems. And if you can solve them, you survive. And if you don't solve them, you die. So in effect, at the margin, natural selection in businesses, it's necessary to have all the things like a great product, lots of capital, great people, and all that stuff. But at the margin, it's problem-solving ability, corporate problem-solving ability, and ability to change that actually wins the day. So just to wrap up, some stories of some interesting things that happened to me. So I was, in the early 90s, working at McKinsey for a very large, we were doing a study for a very large computer company, firstly on the future of consumer IT, and this turned into a study on the future of the internet. So, and then Netscape went public, went to a market cap of about $3 billion or something like that, and I thought that sounds pretty good. I'd like to do that. So I went to look for the UK's best internet company that I could join. So I phoned up my old colleagues at Sun and said, tell me some UK internet companies. They gave me a list of half a dozen, and I went to see some of them, and I joined the one that actually hired me first. The main operative reason why I joined them, because they sent me an offer letter before anyone else. And I could walk to the office, amazingly, and I knew some of the people there who were ex-Sun. Then, very early on, I learned an important lesson, which was never give up on a deal. So we were trying to sell software to the London Stock Exchange, who were being advised by Anderson Consulting. And I went into a meeting there and was told, you've lost the deal, your competitor's going to get it. I phoned my boss, who was the founder of the company, back at the office and said, we've lost the deal. And he said, no, you haven't. Come back to the office. We're going to work out how to win it. And we did go back to the office. We did work how to win it, and we went back and won the deal. So the main lesson is, you're never going to succeed if you give up, so don't give up. A similar sort of thing happened a few years later. We were competing with Hewlett Packard, who by then was our serious rival, and they, I think, had quoted $25 million to Sprint in America to build their network management. Our quote was about $5 million. And we'd been told we'd lost the deal. Now, luckily, by then we were getting better connected, and we actually had a connection with the Sprint chairman. And he actually called the the purchasing team into his room and asked them about this deal and asked them why they were going with a $25 million solution from Hewlett Packard and not with ours, who is a far superior product. Remember, we had the 10x product. And stopped the deal, and we won it. And that really got us on the road to getting big. So just to wrap up, I think we got to something like $7 billion in market cap at the peak, which I think, as far as I know, is still the record for a UK origin, organically grown software company. I'd love to hear if there are any other people who've done something similar, because I'd love to learn from them. Of course, that's all chicken feed by American standards, but I think we could do with a few more here, so I recommend this project to you. Thank you.